Hello and welcome to The Faith Life with me, Kev. In today's video, we're going to be thinking again about COVID-19 because it's been a little while since we did a video talking about the situation that we're all facing at the moment, and I think it's important for us to continue the conversation to see how everybody's doing, basically. And this time, we're going to be thinking about COVID-19 in relation to fear and the fear factor that kind of is surrounding us at this time. Here in the UK, we have seen the Prime Minister being hit with coronavirus to the point where he was hospitalised in intensive care. The lockdown, as I said, is in full effect, and there has been over 15,000 confirmed deaths here in the UK from COVID-19. That in itself is crazy. And there's a prediction that actually the UK could be one of, or if not the worst hit country in the EU. Now, all of that is a pretty good reason to be a little bit fearful of the coronavirus and what that means for us as individuals and as a country and as a world. It may be that you're fearful for yourself, or it may be that you're fearful for someone that's close to you. Maybe somebody that is classed as vulnerable. So what I really want to kind of ask you guys, just a couple of questions, is firstly, how are you doing and how are you coping at the moment? I would love it if you could just pop in the comment section below how you're doing, how you're finding the whole coronavirus lockdown thing, whether it's affecting you or not. I just really would like to know that you guys are okay. And the other thing I want to ask you guys is, how important is it for you to keep in touch with others at this time? Again, I'd love it if you could pop in the comment section how important it is to you and what you're doing to stay in contact with people. I know that we kind of touched on that in the last video in socializing distantly. And I popped out a couple of ideas and asked you to put in the comment section ways that you were doing that. And I would just love an update really on how you're doing with that. And whether you have come up with any new or interesting ways to be keeping in touch with people that maybe other people might not have thought of. For me, there's been a couple of things that I found really valuable. One of them has been video calling with friends and family, and doing things like quizzes. That's been a lot of fun, and to the point where it's become a weekly thing, and it's been a highlight of the week. And the other thing that I have been finding really valuable is playing some video games online in a voice chat with some friends. Again, it's just a really nice way to talk to somebody that isn't in your direct home, and just gives you a variety on hearing about what's going on in other people's lives. And it's just nice to keep up to date with people, isn't it, really? So I would just love it if in the comments you could let me know all the ways that you are keeping in touch with people, especially if it's out there and a bit wacky. So the focal point for today's video is COVID-19 and how that kind of creates a fear factor in our lives. Fear is something that impacts all of us, whether it's in a big way or a small way, and all of us will probably have something that we are scared of. There are fears such as, for me personally, spiders. Okay, I cannot stand them. Do not ask me to help you get rid of a spider, because you don't want that. I'm just going to share a little story with you guys. My wife and I were in a situation where neither of us like dealing with creepy crawlies, especially spiders, and we discovered that we had a rather large specimen of spider in our bath. It was probably like that big-ish, and a very fast-moving spider. And I'm just going to put it all out there. It took me over half an hour just to pluck up the courage to. We did the classic glass over the top, bit of paper underneath trick. It took me half an hour just to pluck up the courage to get the glass over the top of the spider. And in the process, I did it so fast because I was like, I'm not letting this thing get out from under this glass, that when I went to put the glass down on the bottom of the bath, I almost smashed the glass with the force that I put it down on because I was like, nah! And then after that, it took us another 15-20 minutes to pluck up the courage to put the paper underneath and then move the spider outside. So yeah, terrified of spiders. That's an example of one of my fears. I'm also not very good with heights, so don't ask me to go on a high rope course because you won't get me up there. Those are kind of fears that probably all of us can relate to in some way. But then there's also another kind of almost level of fear, and that is the fear of kind of, at the moment, it's probably the fear of death that is most prevalent, I guess. The thing that's going to impact us the most is the fear of death. Whether it's our own or whether it's a loved one who is, as I said before, more vulnerable, there is a real, tangible sense that death could hit, really. It could strike. I've already read the figures of over 15,000 people in the UK have died from the coronavirus, and that's staggering, really. What I want to do with you guys now is just share some Bible verses and chat through what they say about fear and how that can relate to our lives, whether we are a Christian or not. Hopefully you'll find this helpful. So let's jump into the Bible and see what it says. So firstly, from John chapter 14. John is one of the Gospels in the New Testament, and verse 27 says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." The second reading is Isaiah 43. Isaiah is one of the prophets in the Old Testament, and verse 1 says, "But now, this is what the Lord says. He who created you, Jacob, he who formed you, Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." And the third and final reading I want for us to look at today is 1 Peter chapter 5. Again, this is from the New Testament. And verse 6 and 7 says, "Humble yourselves therefore under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you." So we see from these verses that they make it very clear about fear and also anxiety and that sort of thing. And I think what's comforting about these verses is it doesn't say that you're not gonna experience these things, because these are emotions and feelings that we're gonna have. Like, we're gonna be scared of stuff. We're gonna have fear of things, and we're gonna feel anxious. Like that's the thing that's gonna happen. But what these verses are saying is, if we believe and trust in God, then he's there with us, and we can actually, instead of trying to deal with all this fear and anxiety by ourselves, we can cast it onto him. We can pray to God and say, I'm really struggling with X, Y, or Z. Can you help me? And it doesn't mean that God's magically gonna solve the fear's gonna disappear and the anxiety's gonna disappear, but it will dissipate. It will lower, because God is gonna help carry us through it. We've got in John, it says that Jesus is going to give us peace, and it's not of the world. It's a heavenly, divine peace. It surpasses understanding. Like, we can't grasp that peace. We can't understand it. We can experience it, but we can't necessarily understand it. And Isaiah kind of just speaks to the fact that yes, we are gonna experience fear, but we don't need to be fearful, because God we belong to God. Like, God has got us. He is gonna comfort us. He's gonna look after us. He's gonna be with us. He's gonna walk with us through it. And I think the 1 Peter 1 sums it up perfectly when it says the verse 7, "Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you." Now, are we going to get anxious? Yes we are. Are we going to be afraid? Yes we are. But we can put that on God, and we can say, "God, help me. I'm going through this stuff," and because he cares for us, he will help shoulder that burden. Now, my hope is that as I've sort of as we've read those verses and we've had a little chat about them, that for those of you that are Christian, you have read those and go, ah, yes, I needed reminding of that. I needed reminding of the fact that God is with me even when it doesn't feel like it and when things feel really tough. Actually, God is there with us, and He is the one that is going to pull us through it. And for those of you that aren't Christian, I hope that you still find those verses helpful, and it makes you maybe think about, maybe this God isn't so bad, and maybe there is something that I could get out of this. Maybe there's something, maybe there is something to this. And what I would say is, whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian, that you please do jot those verses down and read them in your own time, and just see what you make of them. See if you think there's something to that. Whether if you're a Christian, then you might want to write them down and just remind yourselves when you're going through some really tough times of those verses, when you're feeling afraid, especially at the moment. And if you're not a Christian, jot them down and read them when you're feeling afraid or anxious, and just see if they kind of speak to you in a different way. That would be my suggestion and encouragement to you guys, is just to look back on them and see what you make of them after this video. Don't let this video be the only time you hear those verses, because I think there's real power in those words, and hopefully if you reflect on them you might see that yourself. Okay guys, that is going to bring us to the end of the video. Just to wrap up, fear is very real. It's something that we are going to experience, but with God we are not alone, and He is with us through it, and He will pull us through it, and we can cast that fear onto Him. And yes, we'll experience fear, but it does not mean that we need to be fearful. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you have found this video helpful. Please do consider jotting down those verses and having a look back over them after the video. Maybe over the next week or something, you could just read them, once in the day or whatever it may be. But I do encourage you to do something like that. If you have enjoyed the video, then please do give it a big old like, because that support really does make a difference. It means that the video will go up the list in YouTube's algorithms and make it more discoverable for other people. So if you have found it helpful, then why not make sure that other people have a chance to find it helpful too by just dropping a like. Do use the comment sections for the things I mentioned in the video. I would love to know how you are doing at this moment with lockdown and all that sort of stuff, how you're coping. And also let me know how you're keeping in touch with others, especially if it is different, weird, wacky, anything like that. I would love to hear how you're keeping in touch with people, because I may then pinch some of those ways myself. Don't forget you can subscribe as well to keep up to date when all the new videos go live. It will go into a nice little subscription section on your YouTube. As ever, you can also follow me on social medias. There is Facebook and Instagram, and the links for all that stuff is in the description down below. All that's left for me to say is I hope that you are all doing really well as possible during this extended lockdown, and I hope that you are all looking after yourselves and each other. Until next time, my friends.